one.
Hello, NFL fans. Welcome back to Herd of the Line. This is our Wildcard Weekend review show. And as always, I'm your host, Chapman, and I'm joined by my teammates, Ollie and Tom. How are we, guys?
Good.
Yeah.
Pretty ill with flu season being in full effect. It has hit me pretty hard, but ready to go and try not to sniffle too much into the mic.
I'm
Thank
feeling
you.
I'm feeling good. Lucky that illness hasn't hit me yet. But I've been going back to the gym, so maybe I've just been building up a bit of you know, yeah, exactly. New year, new me, except for I'm actually gonna keep at it. So
There we go. I'm good. That's good to hear, Tom. I'm glad you're sticking with it. Already 2 weeks in. If you can get through next week, they say it's the third week is the killer. So if
yeah.
you can
Yeah.
get through those 21 days, I'm getting over my sickness that we heard from last episode. Now, normally we are recording on Tuesday night, and we normally record on Monday nights, but we made the decision to wait to see if the Rams Vikings game would give us something more exciting to talk about than the Saturday Sunday games. And unfortunately, we bet on the wrong horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so but we still have loads to talk about. We have an exciting episode for you. Before we get going, I got two things to hit. First, as always, want to remind you that we have one of our official sponsor right now is Fantasy Game Day app. That is a UK based fantasy app for people in the UK. We're really lucky to have them. If you go on to their site, you sign up as a first time client. You use the code Hurdle. That's HRDLE. That's Hurdle without the U. You're going to get a nice £7.50 credit to your account as a first time customer, and it helps support us. It helps support the show, and we're really happy. And I think now that we're in the divisional round, there's some exciting bets that you can make on individual players on the Fantasy Game Day app. So again, log on to the app, use the code Hurdle HRDLE Hurdle without the U, and get yourself £7.50 and help support Hurdle the Line. Also, I personally, and I know the guys mentioned it too, we want to say our thoughts and prayers are out with everybody in LA with the wildfires. As somebody who lived in LA for almost 12 years, I've got a friend of mine and his wife lost their house this weekend, and I have a lot of friends that have been had to evacuate for a certain amount of time. And obviously affected the game this weekend with the Rams, which is not that important in the grand scheme of things of what's going on, but it's obviously been devastating. If there's any charities that or anything that you can give to, we highly recommend it. Make sure you're giving to ones that are reputable. Red Crosses, I'm not endorsing the Red Cross, but they're a good one, I know. And I'm sure if you do some digging, you'll find something. But we just want to say hearts and prayers with those guys. Moving on to the football, we thought we'd start really quickly with just going over the vacancies. Obviously, because we had another one open randomly over the weekend. Mike McCarthy not able to get an extension done with the Cowboys. Feels like a kind of a divorce. Both sides were ready to kind of go. So the Dallas Cowboys are now looking for a new head coach. They joined the Chicago Bears, the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New Orleans Saints, and the Las Vegas Raiders also looking for head coaches. Now we know also this last week that surprise, surprise, Mike Vrabel, Patriots legend, in his playing days, has gone and signed a deal after Gerard Mayo was one and done this season. Guys, you got any thoughts on Vrabel going back to his old stopping grounds, the Pats?
I just found it funny because it was clear that when he went for the interview with the Jets that he wasn't going to become the Jets head coach, but he was just doing it out of kind of leverage to, say to New England, come and get
Come
me,
get,
basically. So,
yeah,
but I do think it's a good hire. I think, I don't think they're going to be a great team next year, but I think he'll build as he did in Tennessee. Under him, they went to an AFC Championship game, didn't they? So,
every year.
yeah, exactly. Two even, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and he's yeah, and he's he's a culture guy, and I think but he does a lot of different things. And I think unlike the reason why he's been successful, I guess within the Tennessee his stint as the Titans more so than most of the other Belichick disciples was because I think he went and learned at a bunch of different places. Went to Ohio State and learned. He worked under Bill Brian. He didn't go straight from coaching under Belichick or even being a player under Belichick to the Mills. Ollie, what are your thoughts on this? And I think you have another take on it as well.
I mean, it was it was so obvious the hire was going to happen, and it's just kind of annoying that we have to go through this process, and it just kind of made me thought back to the Rooney Rule stuff and how I just don't think it's implemented correctly, because you basically had the Patriots interview Byron Leftwich, just out of just to basically tick a box of the way that the rule is implemented. And I just don't think it's doing what it is designed to do, which is, of course, to make coaching more inclusive for everybody, no matter what ethnicity or race or wherever you come from. And it's times like this when we all knew the Patriots were going to hire Vrabel. We all knew that was. I mean, as soon as they fired Mayo, it was just so obvious it was going to happen. But then you just have to go through this process of it's almost theatrical in a way, and I think it takes away from the actual true meaning of what we're trying to achieve with the Rooney Rule. And it's times like this that just makes me think, we should probably implement it in a better way and change it. But that aside, obviously great hire, I think, for the Patriots. Vrabel was at the Browns this year. Was quite involved within the Browns, stayed involved within football with his year off. After being sacked from the Titans last year, I think everyone knew he was going to be one of the most, coveted head coach vacancies out there this season. And he's, mistake me if I'm wrong, but the first one to be hired in this round of cycles. So good hire. I think obviously suits their, philosophy, suits what the Patriots are about. Kind of hard nosed, foot in the dirt kind of attitude, and I think he'll be successful there, and excited to see what he can do there with Drake May.
To address the latter part of what you're saying, I think it's interesting because if you look at his record with the Titans, basically the end of the last couple of years there, he's been with a basically broken Tannehill, and then what was it?
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. Yeah. So it's been he didn't have a QB, which again, going into this Pats job, it looks like Drake May's got it. Again, nothing certain. But at least he's got the right tools, and he seems like he's the NFL has not been too big for him, even with a team that's really kind of talentless. And I think that's going to be the hard thing, is they've got to build the team around him. But like you said, Ollie, he knows all the different positions, and even though he was a defensive player, obviously, but
he was with our O-line this year.
Yeah, so
he was doing drills with the O-line. So yeah, as you said, all over the place.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart move, and I'm just like all things in my life, it goes back to the Falcons, but I think that's what we were expecting with Raheem, somebody who'd been on both sides. Yes, he's mostly a defensive coordinator, but he'd been an assistant head coach. He'd been a head coach before, but he's not a master of one thing. He's sort of a doer of all. And I was listening to Bill Simmons talk today on his podcast about sort of like, do you want somebody who's more the culture builder, Jim Harbaugh? Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. I always get John and Jim. Jim Harbaugh, even Mike Tomlin to a certain extent, but Sean Payton. Though I would say Sean Payton's probably kind of an offensive guru too. So maybe he's not quite the right, but these guys who just can, every part, every position, know everything, and sort of can build from the ground up. Versus somebody like, we're all really excited to see if Ben Johnson. I know Fletch would love him to stay where he is, but Ben Johnson more than likely this should be the year he cashes in, and where he goes, and like sort of what kind of head coach he'll be when he's not necessarily just focused on one side of the ball and tinkering around again. I was going to end the episode with this question, but of the remaining jobs, and I'm going to go through them one quick time again. It's the Cowboys, the Bears, the Jets, the Jaguars, New Orleans, and then Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That's an order that sounds a little bit already on my question. But of those jobs, which one would you guys think is the most enticing job and why? I'll throw it to Ollie, you first.
I'd probably go with the Bears just because of the quarterback situation and flexibility within the roster where they're at. Um, the Jaguars, they've just paid Trevor Lawrence. You look at the Jets, they've got an unknown situation with their quarterback. Um, yeah, I'll go with the Bears, and that's not just because I've still got a lot of faith in Caleb Williams. I just think you've got a young quarterback with potential. You've got space to do stuff with that roster. There's not really too many players tied up that's hindering that roster. Flexibility wise and what they can do moving forward. So, yeah, I'd definitely go with the Bears.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go with the Bears as well because that would just be boring. But I'm gonna go with the Las Vegas Raiders. To be honest, I think that they've got some good pieces. I saw a stat that Jacoby Myers had a 0% drop percentage this season, so he really stepped up his game. And they still got Crosby on that defense, so. I think if they can get a quarterback in there who's an actual functional quarterback, 'cause it seems like they've just been ever since Derek Carr left, that they've just been revolving door at quarterback basically. So if they could get some continuity in there, and then get a head coach that can help build them, then I think they can be successful. I mean, I don't want them to be successful. Don't get me wrong; they're in the same division, but I do think that it could be a job where even someone like Deion Sanders could potentially be interested in that one if that's where what's his name ends up.
But Tom, your boss would be Tom Brady.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and that's where my thinking is too. So to not be boring, I actually think the Jaguars is the best job left, only because I think there's still a lot of talent on that roster, and I haven't given up on Trevor Lawrence yet because he has shown that he can do it. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, and I just don't know. Granted, I think you get one more coach, and then it's. But I think, you know, I think there's with the right person in there. I think in the right somebody setting up a team. I don't know what went wrong with Doug Peterson these last 2 years. The other thing is the ownership group isn't going to meddle like a Kraft or like even Mark Davis to be weirdly enough,
Yeah.
Or a Jerry Jones, and you're not reporting to a father and son there. Well, you are reporting to a father and son, but they, for all intents and reports, they like to hire someone and just let them run the show. So, and they spend money. So, though the GM there is the kind of the issue. So
Although, but
that could,
that's still up in the air as well. Like, he could end up being sacked, and then I think that would be, an opportunity that because I think a lot of head coaches at the moment, or ones that are in the lead up to, in the hiring cycle, they don't want to go to a team where there's already old structure from
yeah,
the old side, like the GM, like Trent Baalke, he somehow kept his job. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
um,
yeah. Well, I mean, and the weird thing is, it's going to be like, it's so weird now. The Dallas Cowboy job is not a desirable job. I mean, even with Dak and all this, but it's like they're clearly not spending money,
no,
and it's clearly the Jerry Jones show, and he said
yeah,
that as
Yeah.
much until he dies.
That's it. Yeah.
So, if you're it's more likely they're going to pick a guy who's already been a head coach at somewhere, I would think, because you're gonna if you're a first time head coach, I don't know. I don't know. And like, I don't know why Ben Johnson would go there. Like, I definitely picked the
mm,
Jags over there because it's like, and then, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not, look, there's only 32 of them. So everybody wants one, right? But
Yeah.
I think if you have any kind of cachet, we'll see. I wonder if they don't go to a defensive coach and try to do the thing where you get a really defensive CEO type coach to come in, and then you hire just somebody, or you flip it around and you hire a really great, um, I wonder if Zimmerman almost might get that job just because his defense this year was quite awful after Dan Quinn left. So, but anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll definitely be monitoring that over the next couple of weeks. The show, I just thought it'd be worth mentioning. Okay, let's get into these games. As we said, I'm a big believer that going to seven playoff teams was a mistake. And the games this week didn't necessarily bear that out because of the 7 seeds being like complete crap, but it just feels like there's too many teams in the playoffs. But that's not going to change because there's hundreds of millions of dollars now generated from these games. But we'll go to the game from last night, which was the Minnesota Vikings were supposed to be played in Los Angeles against the Rams. But however, the game was obviously moved from SoFi Stadium due to the fires to Arizona. But it was still technically a home game for the Rams. The Rams beat down Minnesota 27-9. The most impressive thing about the game was the Rams defense. After in 1 year, that defense has just been turned around by 2 stud rookies, even with losing Aaron Donald. I think if you are on Falcons Twitter at all, you just start seeing the words Jared Verse and crying emojis. Though I'm like, if we have a quarterback, I guess it's worth it. But hats off to our colleague Sam. His Rams winning last night. I know he's still smarting from the Texas loss, Ollie, but the Ohio State lost. The loss to Ohio State. Sorry, but honestly, this game is just. The big talking points out of this game was Rams defense and Sam Darnold just falling flat for the second week in a row, and what that kind of means for him and his future in Minnesota. I got to watch a good long portion of like the highlights of the game for about 30, 40 minutes. And I think the big turning point in this game was it was 10-3. Minnesota's driving, big connection with, I think, Jefferson or so, I can't remember, Hawkinson. And then a really great run by Aaron Jones. And then Darnold goes back to pass, and he just fumbles the ball. He just gets stripped and fumbled. Yep. Not even really stripped, just hit, and he fumbles the ball. Jared Verse picks it up, runs it back for a touchdown. Just felt like after that, there was just no chance. What are you guys' thoughts on the game? What did you think?
Yeah, I stayed up and watched most of this. Well, I watched up until like half time, and then I was like, it was 24-3. I was like, there's no point watching the rest of this game. But yeah, as you said, the Rams defense, absolutely. I think they had 6 sacks in the first half. They had 8 in total, or 9 in total even, which is, the most. I think the Titans had 9 against the Bengals a few years ago in the playoffs, and the Bengals still somehow won that game. But yeah, I think the recipe for beating Sam Darnold has been, revealed really. I mean, you saw it in Detroit last week. You pressure him. Obviously Minnesota relies on those deep lying routes with Justin Jefferson and with Jordan Addison to get open deep. And if you're just in his face the whole night and not allowing him to throw the ball down the field, then that's a recipe for success. He looked like a deer in the headlights out there again for the second week in a row. So it really does pay to get that number 1 seed, because if the Vikings got the number 1 seed, they'd have a week's rest or whatever. But they played all their starters in week 18 because it was a game that meant a lot. But then when they came into this game, they just didn't have the juice. It was.
I'm sorry. I gotta say here, I think you play that game 9 out of 10 times, and the Rams have been in that game every single time. Like I don't know. I don't think they had a recipe for. The only other thing you could have done was maybe figured out a run game that sort of started and mitigated a little bit. But the way the Vikings are set up on offense, no way. Like I can't see that.
They won't get into Matt Stafford either. Like he was just standing in the pocket. I think he was, to start with anyway, he was like 10 for 10 or 9 for 9 and a touchdown.
They threw the ball like 9 times straight.
It felt like they didn't run a running play till the second quarter almost.
Yeah, honestly. So yeah, really dominant win for the Rams, and yeah, Jared Verse, that return was really, really nice as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone that has not had much to gloat about with my predictions this year, I picked the Rams to win this game, and I said last week that I wasn't, as much as Sam Darnold had a good season. I said last week that game worried me against the Lions, and I was worried that was going to happen again, and that ended up happening. And I just felt like I agree with you, Chapman. You say that the Rams win this 9 times out of 10. Is that what you said? Because I completely agree with you. Going into this game, I was just convinced the Rams would win it. The record aside with the Vikings, I just thought the Rams had as you said, Tom, the recipe to that defensive line going up against the Vikings was always going to cause problems for Sam Darnold. And as you said, they rely on those receivers to get downfield, and if they can't get the ball downfield, then it doesn't really matter. So, just an unbelievable game from the Rams defensive line. We've said all season about how excited Rams fans must be with such a young and up and coming and exciting defensive line that feels like they're pretty much all on rookie deals and got years left on those deals. So exciting stuff for the Rams. And I don't think any team wants to play this team in the playoffs. They've got experienced players in Stafford and Cooper Kupp and guys like this, guys that have been there, seen it, and done it before. You mix that in with the youth and the kind of energy that the younger guys bring in as well. I just think they're going to be a lot for any team in the playoffs to play. And the Vikings, it's just their season ends in the most Vikings way possible. They lost to two teams this season, the Lions and the Rams. They're the only two teams they lost to regular season or playoffs, and they ended up going 14-3 and losing the first round in the playoffs. So just feels like pretty on point for the Vikings, and I'm sure their fans have felt like this before.
And a special shout out as well to the Rams defensive coordinator Chris Shula, I believe it is. He's the grandson of the great Don Shula. And he just put an absolute masterpiece of a defensive game plan in this one. Yeah, I mean Sam Darnold, he looked like he did in his rookie season all those years ago against the Jets. No, against the Patriots. So
yeah, seeing ghosts.
And it looked like he was in line to get like a big payday after this season. He still probably will get a payday, but that's definitely going to be discounted with the way that he's played in the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, I don't know. I think if you're Minnesota, I think maybe just out of insurance policy, you might not give him a contract. You put him on the tag.
I was going to say, way, can they tag him? Are they able to tag him? Then just tag him. Yeah, I'd tag him.
Yeah, just tag him. It's going to cost you about what Baker Mayfield's making this year, and then you can still see what you got with JJ. Because that's the hard thing for them. He obviously folded when it mattered most, but he did get you to 14-2. You got the right coach. But this has now happened with Kirk Cousins, which that team, I mean, I'm sorry, even what you were saying about the 2 losses, that Kirk Cousins team was just lucky and just weird from 2 years ago when they went 13.
Oh yeah. They were an accident waiting to happen. When the Giants beat them, it was like their defense was terrible. Like
I got to see this team play, well, not live, but obviously we played them this year, and this is a good team. I wouldn't necessarily give up on Darnold like just yet, but I also don't do the Daniel Jones thing where you're giving him 100 whatever just because he went to the playoffs. And so anyway, a lot of some questions there in Minnesota of where to go next. So that they're in the off season now, and we say goodbye to the Vikings. Rams obviously moved to the division round. Where they're going to face the winner of this next game, we'll go. We'll just get this one out of the way because I think it was also a weird game that had some quarterback questions come up at the end. But this was on Sunday night, and it was the Green Bay Packers losing to the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, 22-10. I wasn't really impressed with either. This was like the worst game over. I have a really good friend of mine, Andre, is a big Packers fan. Severely disappointed by this game, but honestly, it was almost unwatchable, this game. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to the Eagles, who have had a very strong season, but they've never looked like a powerhouse team, even though they're the second seed. I think also coming out of this game, much like with the Vikings Rams, is what happened to Jordan Love. This was a team that not necessarily was Green Bay was a Super Bowl favorite, but they were somebody that people were like, oh, they could maybe, especially with how we kind of ended the year.
Yeah, I picked them to go to the NFC Championship game. So, yeah, not so good for me.
I also bring this up now too because this team was also both Minnesota and Green Bay in this vaunted NFC North that we've been talking about all year, and now both of these teams are out of the playoffs. And I don't know what that means, but it's like maybe the toughness in the NFC outside of I'm not, this is no disrespect to the Lions because I think the Lions are legit, but it's interesting that we in this first round we've already got both those teams out where they were dark horse Super Bowl favorites. But anyway, what's your take on Jordan Love? I mean, he sort of just faltered in this game, and I think they had opportunities to win this game because Philly wasn't setting the world on fire by any means, but they did enough to win. And Saquon Barkley again looked really great.
Yeah, I don't know how much stuff. I mean, it's just been a weird season for Jordan Love and this Packers offense. It's been inconsistent, not just on the field, but in terms of availability for a lot of the guys. There's even Jordan Love has missed time this year with injuries. So I don't really know how much stock to take into it. Unlike Sam Darnold, we've seen Jordan Love play at a high level in high leverage games, as you mentioned, Chapman, with last year. Granted, it's just 1 year, but we do have that, we have that evidence. So I think that gives him a much more leeway. I mean, his contract gives him the biggest leeway, of course. He's already been paid, but I think that does give, it gives him the more benefit of the doubt for me, to maybe not take as much out of his performance as maybe I would with someone like a Sam Darnold. But he was disappointing in this game. 3 interceptions in the end, was it? As you said, Chapman, multiple times you felt like if the Packers were able to get it together, they could have gone and made this game interesting at least, and won it at most. So I don't know. It was disappointing ending for their season, but I don't know. I'm at that point where I kind of need to sit back and look at it a bit more because it was just such an odd season for them, and I don't really know how much stock to take from it because of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Right.
I kind of agree. It's like we've seen him do in the playoffs before. I mean, we see him absolutely blow away the Cowboys last year. And I think they were the 2 seed at the time or something like that. So, it was, they were the 7th seed. So they were 7th seed 2 years in a row. There you go. But yeah, he didn't play well in this game, but it doesn't help when, all your receivers are going down. I mean, he did throw a
Partly
hospital
partly
ball.
on him
Well,
though.
Oh yeah,
it
yeah, I
also
know.
doesn't help. I mean, I'm sorry. Just this harkens back a little bit. Forgive me for bringing up the past, but Super Bowl 49, I believe it was, the safety on the very first play of the game, which had never happened in Super Bowl, with Peyton Manning and the Broncos against Seattle, and it just like I was like, oh, this game is over. I said it out loud at the party. I was like, this game is over.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, I know it wasn't that dramatic with this, but you fumbled the opening kickoff, and 3 plays later, Philly, scores.
Yeah.
You spot them 7 at the beginning of a playoff game.
There's a
It's just
questionable
really
fumble.
hard to come. Yeah, I mean, but it is, and it's just like, but it's those little things that
It's the
happen.
little things that
And
go,
big
yeah.
moments.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly. It
just
is.
like,
And he did throw a pass that, I felt sorry for Romeo Dobbs because he went to catch it and then he just got, even with he was wearing the Guardian cap, he still went down, he still got
yeah,
concussed.
He
And
did.
then Jaden
Yeah.
Reed got a shoulder injury as well. Christian Watson's already, tore his ACL in week 18. So, you're throwing to Bo Melton and someone
yeah,
and just
Yeah.
trying to get it to obviously Josh Jacobs. But yeah, obviously that's not an excuse for Jordan Love's performance. Obviously he wasn't very good, especially that one where he just threw it up. He just threw it up for grabs, like in the end zone. They're trying to make a play. He's trying to get them a touchdown or
yeah.
whatever, and then it gets picked off by I believe it's Quinion Mitchell as well. So that kind of sealed the game more or less.
And I don't mean to sound overly negative about the Eagles, even though I highly despise all Philadelphia sports, just to be honest with you. But I think, you know, I think watching Saquon this year has been great, and he was great in this game. And obviously, he did the selfless thing at the end of the game where, with time running out, he could have possibly gotten into the end zone, and he slides down a little early. But who am I
Yeah, maybe a
to
little
critique
bit.
to basically help run the clock out? Even though it was a 2-score game at that point, and there was no way that was going. And obviously Hurts has not again lit the world on fire like he did a couple of years ago in that Super Bowl run, but he's done just enough. He does, and it feels like this team. Maybe I'm wrong, Ollie. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. the Eagles feel like an AFC North team in the NFC in that
Yeah,
they
yeah,
play this sort of like run heavy, just sort of physical upfront game, and
yeah,
they just sort of beat the crap out of you. And at a
yeah,
certain point, you're kind of, and if you make any mistakes, man, they just pounce on you,
yeah.
and that's a good recipe for the playoffs. Now, will it be a great recipe against the Los Angeles Rams and McVay? I don't know. I'm actually really excited to see this matchup. I think we got some really good divisional round
Yeah.
matchups coming up. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I think that's a
any
good
thoughts on
analogy.
that?
AFC North has been kind of synonymous with running the football, playing defense, hard nosed football, and as you said, that's kind of how they've got stuff done this year. Jalen Hurts, you could argue, has been not even in the top five most important players on that offense this year, and that's the quarterback, which is insane to say. They're so physical up front with that offensive line. They've got Saquon Barkley that is such a physical yet athletic runner in his own right. They play physical defense. They've got massive guys up front in Jalen Carter who just is going to terrify anyone that if you see him running towards you. Yeah, they just get it done, and in the end of the day, that wins games in the NFL, and that's been proven with the success. I mean, as you said, Chapman, you look at it reminds you of the AFC North. You look at the success they've had in the playoffs the last decade with the Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals, and occasionally the Browns. But you know what I mean? It's just that's that wins you games in the NFL. So how far it would take them, we'll see, I suppose. But as you said, they're not setting anyone on fire by any means.
And
Yeah.
great touchdown from what is it, Dallas Goddard, who like stiff armed the guy like three separate times
Yeah,
on the way to the end zone. And what is it, Zach Bourne as well. He's been like one of the absolute like he's been all pro,
yeah,
first team all pro, isn't he? He got a pick in this game as well, really good pick as well.
yeah.
So shout out to him for an incredible season.
Yep. Well, we're going to move off this game because we definitely talked about it too much. But these two games set up a Los Angeles Rams going to Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be the NBC game on the 19th, which is, I guess, one of the Sunday games. And it's part of a great slate. So that's our first divisional matchup. Now let's talk about probably the best game of the weekend, which was on the late game on Sunday night.
Yep.
Which was the Washington Commanders going down to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this also was another game where, like the first game in Minnesota Rams, the underdog won. I was doing some little prop bets with some of my buddies. We started talking about this game, and I mentioned traditionally rookie quarterbacks outside of Stroud last year, and there's a couple of other do not do well on the road in the playoffs. However, Jaden Daniel proved us wrong, and he put up a great game. The Commanders win 23-20 on a last-minute field goal that Jaden Daniel set up at the end. Some questionable coaching by Todd Bowles and the Bucs. Guys, what did you think of this game? And what were your impressions coming out of it?
It was the best game of Wildcard Weekend, that's for sure. It was the only one that was actually competitive for both sides. It was quite a back and forth game as well. I know the Commanders got out to a lead. Then the Bucs kind of worked their way back into this game. But the tail of this game was right near the end where, the Commanders, I think they go for it on fourth down, they don't get it. The Bucs
Yeah.
get it back. But then unfortunately for Baker Mayfield, he then fumbles it. And then they get the ball back, and then from that I think they scored a touchdown, right? Don't they,
Yeah.
to Terry
Yeah.
McLaurin? So that was kind of the seal of the game, because there was even a play for the Bucs on the drive, before that, I think it was, where it was 3rd and 1, and
Yeah.
Yaya Diaby, who's actually played really well for the Bucs this year, he looks like he's going to chase down Jaden Daniels, but then he picks up the first down, and then that's what sets up the field goal to. And then even then there was drama with that because doinked off the upright and went through. So
Yeah.
but yeah, really impressive performance from Jaden Daniels. Just happy for Terry McLaurin as well. He's played with so many bad quarterbacks through the years to actually have a good quarterback, and him to be putting on a show as well. And then for the Bucks, Mike Evans, I mean, he couldn't have done much more in this game. It was him, Marshall and Lattimore. He was, he was ripping them up in this game, really. I mean, the touchdown he caught was beautiful as well between two guys. And Bucky Irvin as well. I'm kind of sad that either of these teams had to go out because I like the Bucks. I think they played some really really exciting games this year, and they would have been a great one to progress. But the Commanders are also really really exciting. So excited to see what they can do against the Lions next week.
Yeah, as you said, Chapman, I was in the same kind of boat as you. I picked the Bucks in this game purely based on the statistic of rookie quarterbacks going away in the playoffs. It's a pretty daunting one. So that was what influenced my pick massively. But credit to Jaden Daniels. He was excellent in this game. Baker played well up until, that fumble at the end, which, as you said, Tom, was so devastating because, they're up 4. They've got a chance to go and either extend it to a touchdown or go and extend it to a 2-score game. And literally just like that, they turn the ball over and they're down 3 points in the game. So credit to it, their offense. They were able to go and get the field goal afterwards, but then Jaden Daniels able to set it up at the end before Cleveland Browns legend Zane Gonzalez, who was drafted to the Browns. Proof that if you ever draft a kicker, he'll always go and do something for another team, not your team. And he was able to dunk it in, and I'm sure there was a lot of sweaty palms and a lot of Commanders fans screaming as that hit the upright, and it didn't really look. You couldn't really tell from the broadcast if it went in. It was only until obviously the judges put their hand up. But massive respect to the Commanders, their first playoff win since 2005. As a fan of a team that went through a similar length of time without winning a playoff game, I can kind of understand what an amazing moment that must be for their fan base, and just happy for any of the Commanders fans that have been through quite a lot of crap the last few years. So yeah, happy for them and happy for the Jaden Daniels and the team.
Yeah, it's not quite the Lions last year in the way that I feel about him, but I'm happy. We got the worst owner in all of sports out of the NFL, Dan Snyder, I don't think as a Falcons fan, the parting of Dan Quinn was necessary, but I don't think there was any animosity to say like how we feel about Arthur Smith because we liked Dan Quinn. It just wasn't working anymore, and to see him sort of reinvent himself and some of the things, even last night with his game management that I was watching, totally different from when he was a head coach in Atlanta in a lot of ways. But he's still a big culture guy, and I do wish him well. Also, somebody who just loves football, watching Jane Daniel and Terry McLaurin in that offense kind of operate. And there's no love lost for me with the Bucks. But I would say I do like Baker Mayfield. I do like rooting for him as a underdog quarterback.
Do you think Todd Bowles is back next year, Chapman?
I wonder. I don't know. I mean,
I think they might move on.
Yeah, probably. I mean, unless he retires, probably.
I think he's back.
I wonder, there's some talk that their offensive coordinator did a great job this year.
Liam Cohen, yeah.
Jobs. Yeah, Liam Cohen. So we'll see. I think you kind of, though, I'm just going to be really honest, as much as it's fun to watch Baker, those turnovers this year, I mean, he was either tied or
he led the league.
He led the league.
Okay, he ended up leading the league, him and Kirk Cousins, right? So I think he's like a worse Brett Favre, and I mean that in where Favre always would at least double his touchdowns to his, and he always made the crucial plays, whereas I don't know if you can. Mayfield's a little more 50-50, which is why Brett Favre has a Super Bowl and multiple MVPs, and Mayfield doesn't. So I don't know what the top end of this. I personally think they need to be a defensive first team. You run and then you let Baker be Baker, but you limit sort of what that is. And I think you could still be successful with him. Because I honestly think a great defense in the NFC South can get you kind of a far way. And so anyway, but yeah, to answer your question, I don't know. I mean, he's also older. I mean, how much longer does he want to do this? So we'll see. But anything else on this game, guys? Because I think we could probably just keep moseying along. I just also wanted to point out, so the Commanders were a minus or +3 dog on the road and won, and the Rams were a 2.5 dog in what was supposed to be a home game against the Vikings. Both win outright. which if you had parlayed that together and maybe with some and sprinkled in a couple of the player props with the old Ravens, you might have made a pretty penny. Anyway, I did hit a parlay this weekend for a good 200, which was nice. But we're not a gambling show. We're just an overall football show. I'm going to save this last game for the bits. We'll talk about quickly about the Buffalo Bills just totally destroying the Denver Broncos, who were just happy to be there as a seventh seed and kind of bouncing off one of their worst seasons. I mean, Jared Cook's awesome. The running game for the Bills is really coming on in the right time, I think. Allen, needs that because obviously, he's got some decent receivers, but there's no Stephon Diggs anymore. There's some good role players, but they seem to have the right formula right now. And obviously they hit a Denver team that, had a good year, got in as a seventh seed and obviously looked like a seventh seed. That's about all I have to say about this one. What did you guys think?
It was kind of hilarious because I messaged Ollie like right at the start of the game when Bo Nix threw that great touchdown, and I was like, "Oh look, we got some Bo Nix, we got some." Yeah, and then that was all we got. They just proceeded to give up 31 straight
points. Yeah.
And the highlight of it for me was the touchdown that Josh Allen threw to Ty Johnson in the back of the end zone. That was insane. I mean, he let go of the ball and then he caught it with his feet were like honestly like a millimeter away from being out of bounds, but he caught it and that just kind of summed up the game. But yeah, a really good season for the Broncos. Rookie quarterback. Again, proven that rookie quarterbacks on the road, other than Jaden Daniels, don't perform too well.
I think asking Jaden Daniels to go to Buffalo and play this team in the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
I think we're talking about. Look, I was the same way. I saw Bo Nix score that touchdown. I was like, oh, okay, this might be a little bit of a fun game. And then the Bills were like, oh no. And I love the focus. I mean, obviously, the Bills have a really tough task with their game coming up, but importantly, they played at home and they sort of, got the because obviously they went out in the first round last year, right? I believe didn't they lose in the wild card?
No, they lost in the divisional against the Chiefs.
Divisional round. Yeah. No, when was it? 2 years ago they got knocked out. Didn't they get knocked out in the first round? Anyway, doesn't matter. New point. It's a good win. Just a good positive win. And they didn't have to expend too much energy with what will be this next game.
And it sets up an absolute blockbuster matchup next week between.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
That's going to be a matchup.
As someone that has crapped on Bo Nix a lot, as the resident Bo Nix hater, I will put my hands up and say I still wouldn't have drafted him in the first round. No, the Broncos do deserve a lot of credit for this season. I think we all knew it was going to end in a wild card round blowout, no matter who they played. But to get into that position anyway, with the dead cap they were carrying with Russell Wilson, everyone thought moving on from Russ last year was going to cripple them for a few years at least. They were able to bounce back, make a playoff appearance. As we all said, we didn't expect much from them in it, but they got into the dance anyway. So credit to them. But yeah, Bills just look too good for them. And as you guys said, setting up one hell of a matchup next week.
So the Bills win, and they are going to be hosting the winner of our last game, which was it wasn't our last game. We've got two more games, but the winner of this game, which was the Baltimore Ravens demolishing Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14 in an AFC North slobber knocker that really wasn't. In the tail of this game, really quickly, was Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are a duo that is really good and going to be really hard to stop. And the Steelers offense had been coming down to size, and when the defense couldn't win and you just give up points, the Steelers just aren't able to keep up. And that was the name of this game. Henry, I think I was most impressed with. I think he had 180 something yards, touchdown.
Yeah.
He just looked awesome, and I hope that's just the beginning of big things for him in the playoffs. Even though I like the Bills too. But anyway, what did you guys think of this game?
I will hand it over to resident Steelers hater Ollie.
Yeah,
So
I am
I'll
the resident Steelers hater. It's always a tough one when the Ravens go up against the Steelers. You've got the arch nemesis Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the team that literally stole your team. Um, so it is always an odd one. But my hatred for Pittsburgh runs that deep, and my fondness for Lamar Jackson runs that strong that I was definitely favoring the Ravens in this one, and was very pleased to sit there and watch the Pittsburgh Steelers lose yet again in the first round of the playoffs. They've yet to win a playoff game now since 2016. The last time they won a playoff game, Tom, was against your Chiefs, Alex Smith, in 2016. And, since then they lost, they gave up 45 points to the Jags, 48 points to the Browns, 42 points to the Chiefs, 31 points to the Bills, and then 28 points to the Ravens. None of those games were really close apart from the Jags game. It's as expected from me, guys. Every year, everyone goes, look at the Steelers, look at what they're doing. They're 10-0, they're 10-3. This is going to be the year. And I always sit there and say, all right, we'll see what happens after the first round of the playoffs. And what happened again, Tom? It happened again.
It happened again.
I'm not surprised. It's what I've come to expect from the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. The winning record's cool, going up, above 500 for 17 years straight. But in the end of the day, what does that mean if you haven't got a playoff win this decade? So a lot of questions to answer in Pittsburgh, and I'm very happy because of it.
I find it
The
quite
Ravens
funny.
look great.
I saw some sort of stat that said that Dan Quinn, last time that the Steelers won, he was in charge of the Falcons, lost the Super Bowl with the Falcons, then got hired by another team and won a playoff win
Yeah.
before the Steelers have won one. So, yeah, it was, but yeah, dominant performance from the Ravens. They're up 21-0 at the half, and then even the commentator, like Kirk Herbstreit, was like, where is the fight from the Steelers? That there was no fight from them in the first half. It was kind of atrocious, to be honest, like as much as the Ravens were really, really impressive. They improved a little bit in the second half, like a tiny bit, but yeah, the damage was done. Lamar, Derrick Henry, those
Unreal.
two, even without Zay Flowers, like no problem. So yeah.
Yeah. No, and there was a lot of other contributors in the game too, in terms of like the offense, and it just feels like the offense is firing on all cylinders right now, and I'm really interested to see. So we have a Bills defense that has been very good this year, and then you have an offense that's, let's say, at times the best in the NFL in certain ways. But you also have an offense in terms of the Ravens. Then you have an offense in the Bills that's been also very, very good, and at times excellent. Both teams running the ball really well and then making key plays to keep first down. So my hope is that it's not that we get some points scored and it's not a boring slugfest, but that we really get to see all these players come and play to them. I'm expecting a good game, and that's again, that's going to be that's a Sunday late game. The Baltimore Ravens traveling up to Orchard Park, Buffalo.
I'm gonna have to stay out for that one. Even I think kickoff over here at 11:30, but I'm gonna have to. I have to.
Yeah, gonna have to.
Yeah.
Better the no sleep.
Yeah.
And the last game of the weekend, which I don't know, it's not the worst game, but it wasn't that exciting. Which was the LA Chargers in Houston, losing to the Houston Texans 32-12. A little bit of a CJ Stroud redemption game for, a season that's kind of not been as spectacular as his rookie season was last year, but still they now win another divisional playoff game. I believe this is the 8th game in a row that they have been the Texans in that first Saturday game. And so they win it. Herbert, coming out of this game, really, I think the big line was CJ Stroud kind of looked like his old self, played really well, and Justin Herbert once again flounders in the playoffs.
Justin Herbert's Philip Rivers 2.0. That is what I gleaned from this game.
That might be disrespectful to Philip Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right, to be honest. I mean, it's we all talk about him. He's like, oh, his arm talent is this, is that. But when it comes
Yeah.
to the playoff games, I mean, you can't beat a team when they throw four picks against the Jags. I mean, your defense just shits the bed. And then you can't beat the Texans, who have not looked impressive this year. Obviously, the defense looked really impressive in this game. CJ Stroud as well, but it could have been a different game. It was. I think it was 7-0 Chargers for like a while, but then there was a play and it was near the end zone where CJ Stroud like fumbled the snap, picked it up, threw it downfield, and then from that moment on, that was just a momentum changer. The Chargers just couldn't really hang in the rest of this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, Justin Herbert was not good in this game. Obviously, I know a couple of the ones where it bounces off the receiver's hands or
Yeah.
whatever, but the pick six he threw is like, come on, man! Like, this is a playoff game. Like, what are you doing? But one bright spot for the Chargers was that what's his name? Lab McConkey had 193 yards, I believe, which is the most for a rookie in a playoff game, or like the third most maybe for a
I
rookie in a
think it is
playoff
the
game.
most, Tom. I think it
Is
is the
it?
most. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know because Demarius Thomas had a load, and so
Yeah.
did what's someone else. But yeah, the most. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
Puka had what 181 last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was the one bright spot for them. But yeah, just a terrible day at the office for Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I mean, it did give me nightmares watching the Houston Texans returning a pick six in the playoffs for the second year running. Brought back some PTSD, that one for me. Um, Credit to the Texans, as you said, Tom. I mean, we all kind of thought they were stumbling into this playoff game with how the kind of back half of their season had been, kind of their whole season really. Wasn't that impressive from them. They finished 10-7. They only with a fourth seed just because of the format that they're the division winners, so they're the fourth seed. So the Chargers won more games than them this year, but the Chargers just didn't look like they turned up, to be honest. That's kind of all I really took from it. They just looked unprepared, and didn't look like they turned up. Didn't look like the same team that we'd seen all season from them. And as you guys said, Justin Herbert, it is getting to that point now that even the biggest Justin Herbert defenders haven't got too much to stand on now, because this is multiple times where we've seen him have a chance in a playoff game to go and take his team to the
I
next
mean, the
round.
guy's a couple games above 500. Like it's not like they talk about, you got to elevate your team past this sort of stuff, and he's not been able to do that. But Derek Stingley as well. Is it Derek Stingley? Yeah.
He's
He
unreal, yeah.
he was unreal. He had two picks in this game as well. He's had an all-pro
Well,
season as well.
well, let's give hats off to the head coach on the Houston side, D'Amico
Yep.
Ryans. I mean, he unlike the Chargers, he had his team ready to play, and his defense
Yep.
did what it needed to do to really get Herbert off. Now, I'm not a Herbert lover or hater. I'm sort of neutral in the middle. I think there are other quarterbacks who've been very good and taking time to win their first playoff
Yeah,
game they
yeah, yeah.
run. So, but I would say, yeah, I don't think you can put him in the top class of the NFL QBs in the way that he's sort of been there just because of his talent when you have performances like this. I also think he's got kind of like one guy to throw to be really honest with you.
True.
So let's see what
I
happens
mean,
over
he
and
threw
that guy's a rookie.
he threw more
Yeah,
picks in this game than he did the
Yeah.
all
entirety of the rest of the
season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
season.
Mental.
It's like,
yeah,
oh my
yeah,
God.
Mental.
Yeah.
yeah. So Houston wins their matchup against the 7th seed, and they get to go and face as a reward
Yeah,
Kansas City in
yeah.
Arrowhead. Woo!
Good
Congrats
luck.
to you guys. I mean, look, no offense to Texans, and granted, Tom, cover your ears. Not to curse anyone, but I mean, I don't think the Texans are winning the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
but who knows? But any given Sunday. But I would say, if you're the Kansas City, I'm happy with that outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I was pretty happy with the
You'd
outcome.
probably rather
so,
them than the Chargers. But as you said,
yeah,
Tom,
yeah.
that defense, if they can put a similar performance that they did against the Chargers, on
Mm.
Patrick Mahomes, you never know. It might only be by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I have to do the thing where I have to pull up my CDS app so I can actually look and when these games are because I absolutely hate how we do this. All right, so first game of the weekend is on this coming Saturday. The divisional round will be the Houston Texans at the Chiefs. That's a 9:30 start here in the UK.
Yep.
Then that'll be followed by the Commanders Lions game, Fletch's team, at 1 a.m. On Sunday morning. But technically it's our Saturday game. So that's our two Saturday games. So we've got both one seeds playing on Saturday, which is interesting. And then on Sunday, we've got the Rams at Philadelphia Eagles, LA Rams and Philadelphia Eagles. That's an 8 p.m. start on Sunday here in the UK. And then the following game, which is the kind of heavyweight battle, I think, of the weekend, which will be the Baltimore Ravens going to Buffalo Bills. And that's an 11:30 p.m. slot. I'm pretty excited about all those games, to be honest with you.
Yep.
It sucks for the Commanders coming in, finally winning a playoff game, and then having to go beat the
go to
Lions.
Detroit. That's fun.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you're a lower seed or a low seed in the is that low seed or high seed? What would you say? High seed? I don't know. Anyway, when you're the 6th seed, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I will definitely be staying up for all those games. I think hopefully, unlike this weekend, which was we got to see some excellent performances, but we saw some pretty subpar games overall. But hopefully these will reward us as they usually do when we get to this time with these final 8 teams. Any predictions? We're not the review team. I mean, we're not the preview team, but who do you like in these games? Just quickly.
Yeah. I'll go Lions over Commanders. I'll go. Oh, do I go Eagles or Rams? You know what? I'm going to do it. I stuck with them in the last round. I'm going to go Rams over Eagles.
Nice.
And then in the AFC, I am going to go with the Ravens over the Bills. And then I will go with the Texans over the Chiefs. I'm joking, of course, the Chiefs over the Texans.
You have my heart. Go there for a second on it. Yeah. The first one, obviously I'm going to go for my Chiefs to beat the Texans. I'm also going to go for the Lions to beat the Commanders, but I think it's going to be a closer game than people think.
Same.
I agree.
Then I'm going to go with wait, what's the next game
again? Eagles Rams.
Oh, Philly Rams. I'm going to go with Philly, but I think that's going to be a close game too. And then I'm going with the Ravens. I just think they'll have too much for the Bills defense, to be honest.
Yeah. I got the Chiefs making it to 18th or whatever it is, AFC Championship game. I have been a Bills believer the whole year, and as much as I love what Lamar and his team's done, I just think Josh Allen doesn't care about MVP. He wants to win a Super Bowl, and the only way to do that is to beat the best. So I'm going to go Bills. I'm going to go Chiefs Bills, and I really want to see that AFC Championship again. Yep. And then I definitely see Lions pulling out what I hope is a very competitive game against the Commanders. But I think again, I'm riding those Lions, and then I'm going to also go with Ollie. There's just something about watching Philly that just feels like they're beatable, and I think McVay. Maybe not with all the talent, but he just has the intelligence to figure out what he's got to do. He's like Belichick. It's just about the margins and figure out what those margins are. So I've got the Rams. So I think it's going to be a Lions Rams NFC Championship game, and I think it's going to be a great Chiefs Bills, another classic.
AFC back to Detroit.
Yeah. Fletch, do you want to throw a question out, or did we already steal it earlier?
Hello.
Earlier this morning.
By the way, first up, fantastic episode, and as I agree with pretty much all your predictions, by the way, for the playoffs. Although the one thing I can't stand that you should all prepare for is it's going to be insufferable that week leading up to the NFC Championship, as everybody now in the league has to live through the Stafford going back to Detroit narrative again.
Oh, again.
No, we've already done it.
Yeah, but for the NFC Championship game, I need that in my life.
That would be
I think Kelly Stafford, I don't know which child they're going to boo this time, or
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what Detroit fans are going to do this time. Either way,
I know. Security
so
would be recommended.
I did have a question for you guys at the end, and it was going to be along the lines of a game that Sam, Carl, and I played on Thursday, which was basically let's choose which is the best potential head coaching job in the NFL right now. Which one would you go for? But that was taken by a damn fine Falcons fan. So I've asked you already one question how we're going to do this. Now I want to ask one more. Do you want to all go solo, or do you want to collectively work together for this?
Work together.
Solo.
Let's go
Oh,
teamwork.
okay. I see.
Okay,
I
okay,
thought
yeah,
teamwork.
teamwork.
All right,
let's
Tom.
do it. Yeah,
me and
teamwork.
Chapman versus
Teamwork
Tom
makes the
then.
dream work. Sorry. My competitive nature just get too much. Talk about Chiefs Bills. I'm like, oh yeah.
So
Oh,
we've all heard of build your own, build the best wide receiver, build the best running back, whatnot. No, I've never seen anyone do build the best head coach. So I've got 6, maybe 8, if we can fly through this relatively quickly, categories. And as a collective, I want you to come up with a head coach, current head coach in the NFL, who you
Yeah.
would choose for this specific category.
okay.
Category number 1, leadership.
Dan Campbell.
Mike.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. That's probably what I
Mike
would.
Tomlin.
Tomlin would be the only other person I could think of. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be between those two, but I would pick. I would pick for what Dan
I'm
Campbell's
happy to
done
go
over the
with
last
Dan.
3 years.
If you want to go with
Yeah,
Dan.
yeah, yeah.
Play calling.
Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell. Man, or
McVay.
Oh, McVay. Yeah.
I mean, he's had a shitty year, but Shanahan also would be in there. But
Yeah.
I'd say let's go Kevin O'Connell.
What do you think, Ollie?
Oh, I don't know. McVay is. Or Ben
Maybe
Johnson.
McVay then.
Or
I'd
Ben
be
Johnson
tempted by McVay.
Oh, no, it's only head coaches, isn't it? So I was going to
Yeah.
say,
Only
I-
current
I-
head coach in the NFL.
we've seen it for longer from McVay.
Yeah, true. And he's won a Super Bowl, so yeah, I'll go McVay.
You happy with that, all three of you? Yep.
Yeah.
Culture.
Mike Tomlin.
Andy Reid.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, no. That's tough.
10
That's
straight winning seasons.
Yeah. I think you have to go Andy Reid just because of the winning.
17 straight winning seasons, Tom.
3 Super Bowls.
1.
I-
Not Patrick Mahomes
Can I-
on that team.
Can I be honest? I don't. It's not. This is no. Just. I don't think of Chiefs culture. I think of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'll
and
be
then
honest,
I think
Tom.
of Andy. I don't think of like, oh, when I think of the Steelers,
I
and
agree.
it may be because of even though the Chiefs are obviously too an older. Well, they're not old, but they're. I think of culture more when I think of a Steelers team than I would say that, and not because the Chiefs don't have culture, but because the Chiefs have the best player. Arguably in the NFL, so it kind of makes it a little. It's like Michael Jordan. It's like the Bulls. I don't think I think of culture of the Bulls.
Those Super Bowls didn't come with Alex Smith.
I can concede to that then. Okay.
Whereas Mike Tomlin, he's the responsibility.
I actually would have said Andy Reid's a better play caller now than McVay. If we were doing
that is a shout.
That's a good shout. You know,
that is a shout. You know,
because he's been doing it longer.
Can we change it?
Should we change it?
Can we change it?
If you all agree to change it,
Andy Reid, I'll be real.
Yeah, let's go Andy Reid play caller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin culture.
Mike Tomlin culture.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
And Mike Tomlin for culture, yeah?
Yeah.
Development, player development.
Oh, that's
a tough one.
I mean, McVay again.
McVay, yeah.
Yeah, I think McVay.
McVay or Nico Ryan, but he hasn't been doing it long enough.
Yeah, not long enough.
That Texas team is so young and so good.
Development.
What about Matt LaFleur deserves a shout for that as well.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, he's a good shout, but yeah, McVay is quite hard to pick against.
Yeah, let's go McVay.
Yeah, McVay.
Innovation.
Oh shit! Come on.
Oh,
let's go Kevin O'Connell because we already went.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down for Kevin O'Connell for innovation.
Yeah. So I kind of trying to think of a word to describe this. Clutch, maybe under pressure. Just a coach who can handle
calm
head.
Like when it's no matter when it's how much pressure's in the situation, they still
Not
make the
Kyle
right call.
Shanahan.
They still stick to their ethics.
I'm gonna go with Andy
Can
Reid
we
again,
repeat
man.
coaches?
That's up to you guys. It's up to you guys if you want to.
I don't know where we're going with this. How many more of these do we have?
This is potentially the last one.
Okay.
Innovation.
No, this one's clutchness, isn't it? Right?
Oh, clutchness.
Yeah. Clutchness, really good under high pressure situations.
John Harbaugh?
Oh no, but he's did I?
Yeah, he's
It's a shout. It's a good shout.
I mean, he's won a Super Bowl.
I personally would probably say Andy Reid. I mean, he's won the last, he's won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years, whatever it is. Been to the AFC Championship. No one's been in more high pressure situations than Andy Reid, and he's more times than not made the right call. So I'd probably go Andy Reid.
That's good. Yeah, we'll have to repeat it. That's fair.
I'm going to say I'll allow you to repeat a coach.
Cool.
Can we get like best looking so I can just get my coach a shout or something?
Your coach is not the best looking coach.
I think Matt LaFleur is the best looking coach.
I raised Kevin. I think he's top 3.
This conversation changed and went in a very different direction. If you want,
I'll even put Raheem Morris. I think he's buff.
Yeah,
he's young. Mike Tomlin looks cooler though.
Also, I publicly said twice this season, there's just something about when I watch Falcons games, they pan to Raheem Morris. When he smiles, I smile too, and it's just
he has a very well.
He's an infectious guy. I mean, I'll give him that.
Okay, so if you want to go with good luck, I'll add a good looking one in here, but I'll just add it as a side note rather than a full on.
My vote's Kevin.
Just generally, defense. A great defense.
I'll go.
They got to still be coaching.
I'll go Mike McDonald.
Current NFL head coach.
Mike McDonald.
As in a defense.
I'm going to go. I wouldn't pick him over some. I mean, I get what you're saying. That
I might go with
McDermott
John Harbaugh
or John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh's a special teams coach. He's never been a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Oh, who then?
Nick Sirianni.
McDonald was the play caller for the best defense in the NFL.
Can we pick an offensive coordinator?
I'm saying McDonald, guys. I'm saying McDonald. Honestly, I'm backing it.
Has to be a head coach.
I would say let's go McDermott. I think he's had a better,
I like that. I like Sean. Oh, but I don't know. The Bills' defense has it.
I mean, but over the course of time, it's been a top 5 unit. I would say so.
Yeah, it has. To for the longevity, I will give it to McDermott. But I do like the McDonald shout. To be fair.
Yeah. Although we all know it, that's all laid and dead. Mike McDonald. It's all laid and dead. And finally, offense.
Andy Reid or Sean McVay.
Yeah.
And if it was last year, you would say Shanahan, but
yeah,
he'd definitely be in the mix for last year.
I mean,
Kevin obviously as well.
Kevin's as well. No, not that Kevin.
Kevin Stefanski's definitely in it as well, guys. I appreciate you guys for bringing him up. Cheers. I was going to bring him up, but I appreciate you guys bringing him up. I don't think he quite deserves it, but he definitely deserves a shout.
I mean,
I'd say McVay.
The best offense in the NFL this year, though, was the Ravens, right? All overall.
Yeah, but he's not that's the thing about.
I know. I mean, it's Todd Monken, but it's still he's the head coach of it. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to say you think of a head coach's offense. Oftentimes, maybe they were an offensive, but you know that while the offensive coordinator could be incredible, could potentially be the best offensive coordinator, but they're generally going off. You think if a head coach had to take over play calling on offense, you would be the playbook probably comes mostly.
I'm going with Andy Reid again. I mean, the guy.
Yeah, it's Andy Reid or Sean McVay. I think we're trying to make this not sound like it is obviously Andy Reid or Sean McVay.
So I'm going to just spell this out: DANCAMP. I'm joking. Andy Reid. So just to recap from where we're at then, leadership, Dan Campbell, play calling, Andy Reid, culture, Mike Tomlin, player development, Sean McVay, innovation, Kevin O'Connell, high pressure situations, Andy Reid. Defense, best defensive minded head coach, Sean McDermott. And offensive, Andy Reid.
I
Are
mean,
we
it's
happy
funny.
with this?
It's funny because I personally would probably change innovation to Andy Reid as well. But let's just leave it at Kevin O'Connor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't be putting Andy Reid like fourth
I was gonna
time.
say, do you want to just walk
I mean,
away and say, okay,
he's one of the
perfect head coach,
greatest of
Andy
all
Reid?
time
Oh,
for
he
a
is. Oh,
reason.
me,
Like,
100%.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm not gonna. Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
not
he is
gonna
one of the greatest of
say
all time for a reason.
anything bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But credit to all
Good. What
those
are we
guys.
doing with these answers now?
Uh,
That was
I'm going
it?
to
Or
compile
just
them
it?
into a little graphic at some point over the next few days,
Okay,
and
well, if you're going
hopefully,
to do Fletch, if you're going to do that thing where you do like the different body parts, just don't use Andy Reid's, torso
like,
or belly.
I
Yeah,
was thinking of just.
maybe he's Sean McVay's
Yeah. Maybe use Sean McVay's face. And
I told you, but with Andy Reid, there's more arrows, like more surface
Mm,
area, to kind of work round
true.
for the graphic.
no, you need Andy Reid's head because you need the mustache.
I was thinking
Or
of
just
just
put the
using a
mustache.
generic silhouette,
Just put the
like,
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
generic
Fair enough.
silhouette.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Just a walrus with a mustache.
Or probably just using a picture of Andy Reid and saying, "Oh yeah, and there's a couple of the coaches who do."
Yeah,
good
there was a
things as
couple of
well."
other guys, but most
Yes.
of them.
Yeah, yeah. But that's what I had to come up with when after my
Good.
question was
That was
I
taken.
like it.
So,
I liked
That's
it.
it. Love it.
Good.
Well done.
Can I have like 60-ish, maybe 2 minutes for a quick personal thing, guys?
go for it.
Sure.
Of course.
So if anybody knows me or has worked with me or has been friends with me for any amount of the last 10 years, you've heard me talk about my dog, Peaches. Unfortunately, on Friday, after 10 and a half years, Peaches passed away in her sleep in the morning. And I just say that because football has been a big part of my life, and Peaches has watched more football and been with me through more Falcons and Georgia games and all sorts of other stuff than anyone. I got her in Atlanta when I was living in LA, and she lived in LA with me for a year and a half and before we moved to London. And she's lived with me here. She's a big reason I think I have my wife at this point because I think my wife fell in love with Peaches before me. And honestly, one of the hardest nights, I don't like talking about too much, was obviously the Super Bowl loss. And I got back to my flat at like 4:30 in the morning or something, and I was just alone, and Peaches was there. And I'll never sort of remember just like kind of hugging her and just being like, I don't know what to do after that game. It's really hard losing a pet. It's my first time as an adult, but I just want to say, I've lost my best football friend, and I just want to, if you got animals at home, if you got pets, make sure you love on them and you give them an extra hug for me today, because it's going to be hard. This is going to be the first last season, but I'm lucky because I got 10 and a half great years with her. She's a bulldog, and that's pretty long for a bulldog. Hopefully Peaches is going to enjoy some divisional football in heaven somewhere and be running around and maybe flying around some angel wings and chasing footballs up there. But thanks for just letting me. I just want to say, I know there's been a lot of hard stuff going on in the world this week, and personally for me, it's been a little harder because of that. But appreciate those that watch the football with you, whether they're furry or humans, tolerable humans. But anyway, I'm gonna miss Peaches. But thanks, guys.
Well, we're all with you, Chapman. It's like, I mean, I don't know about anybody else. Growing up with dogs, it's really crazy just how much they do become such an incredible part of your life, man.
I've got the ashes of one of my dogs literally over from the room at me. Lost my childhood best friend a couple of years ago, Chapman, and completely share with your feelings right now. It's just like losing a family member. People that say that pets are just pets, they really aren't. They truly are more than that. And whenever you lose one, it is hard, but you just got to remember, the only reason it hurts is because of all the good times that you did share with them, and how much you were loved and they were loved, and just have to remember those good times and go from there. But love to Peaches, Chapman.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry for your loss to hear that.
No, thank you. Yeah. I just want to say that to just make the most of the time you have with your pets, because you never know when it's gonna be done. But guys, thanks so much for joining us. I know the Wildcard Weekend wasn't exactly so wild, but we saw some, like I said, some entertainment performances. But it's gearing us up for what I hope is a slam dunk, home run,
Oh yes.
touchdown,
Oh
on
yes.
fire divisional round. Fletch, Tom, good luck to both of your teams that are
Yep.
remaining. I think we have unanimous picks across them. I might be looking at little wagers with maybe the two favorites and the one seeds, and then maybe
Yeah.
some underdog play on the other side. But we'll see. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Obviously, preview team will be coming in a few days to break down these games a little more in depth with Sam and Carl and Fletch and the crew. Obviously, the college championships coming up on Monday, and Ollie's Ohio State playing in that against Notre Dame. And I'm sure the college pod will be using that. So please stay tuned to all the AAW network. Please make sure to be on the Fantasy Game Day app when you can, and use our code HURDLE, HRDLE, HURDLE without the U, to get yourself a little 750 bonus bet there. And keep listening to us. Thanks so much. Hurdle that peaches.